Notes from underground. What if the internet's coldest cynic craved approval more than anyone? A modern retelling of Dostoevsky's Notes from Underground. Chapter 1. The Account. I am a sick man. I am a spiteful man. I am an unpleasant man. I think there is something wrong with my liver, or possibly my dopamine, or possibly nothing at all. That's the part I can't tell you, and the fact that I can't tell you is, in a way, the whole subject of everything I'm about to write. Let me start again, less dramatically, because I heard how that sounded, and I want you to know that I heard it. That's important. You have to understand from the very beginning that there is nothing I do that I don't also hear myself doing. I opened with "I am a sick man" because it's a good line. It's arresting, it makes you lean in, and I chose it for that reason. And I knew, even as I typed it, that a certain kind of reader would find it self-indulgent. And I could see that reader forming their little judgment, and I got there before them. I judged it first. I judged the line, and I judged the reader judging the line, and I judged myself for caring what the reader thought. And here I am, 4 sentences in, 3 levels deep in a hall of mirrors. Having said almost nothing, and this exactly is the disease, not the liver. This, the narration that never stops, the commentary track that plays over every single thing I do, so loud that I can never quite hear the thing itself. I'll tell you what I am, in the plainest terms I can manage. I'm 41 years old. I work in a job I won't describe because describing it would locate me, and being located is the one thing I've spent my whole life avoiding. I live alone in an apartment that is clean in the way that only the apartments of people with too much time and no one to disturb them are clean. And I am, online, under a name that is not my name, a person some number of strangers find very sharp. That last part is the part I circle back to, so let me get it out of the way. I have an account. I've had it for 11 years. On it, I say true things about the world in a voice that makes people laugh, and the true things I say are almost always about what other people have gotten wrong, their hypocrisies, their little performances, their earnest, embarrassing sincerities, the gap between how they present themselves and what they obviously are. I am, if I may say so, extraordinarily good at this. I can look at anything, a product launch, a heartfelt post, a movement, a man crying on camera, a woman announcing her engagement, a company's statement of values, a stranger's genuine joy, and I can find in about 4 seconds the thread that, when pulled, unravels it into vanity or fear or self-interest or cliché. And I can put that thread into words so clean and so cold that thousands of people will see it and feel the specific pleasure of watching something get seen through. They call it insight. I know better. I've had a lot of time to know better. Here is what I actually am, and I'm only able to say this because you don't know who I am and never will. I am a man who has mistaken the ability to see through things for the ability to do things, and these are not the same, and the confusion between them has cost me my entire life. Let me explain the mechanism, because the mechanism is the only thing I truly understand, and a man should write about what he understands. Suppose an ordinary person, one of the ones I make fun of, one of the active ones, the ones who post their gym progress and their vacations and their sincere little gratitude lists. Suppose one of them decides to do something. Start a business, ask someone out, learn an instrument, say what they feel. What happens is, they want it and then they do it, and the wanting flows into the doing like water into a glass. There's a little friction, sure, a little fear, but the fear is just weather. It passes over the top of the wanting, and the wanting keeps going, and the thing gets done. That's an ordinary person. That's a healthy nervous system. I have watched them my whole life the way a paralyzed man watches dancers, with contempt, which is the only shape my envy is allowed to take. Now suppose I want something. Watch what happens. Between the wanting and the doing, in that little gap where the healthy person feels a puff of weather, I don't feel weather. I feel the whole apparatus switch on. I want to send the message. And instantly I see the message from the other person's side. I see how it will look. I see the eagerness in it, and I judge the eagerness. And then I see myself judging it and think at least I'm self-aware. And then I see that the self-awareness is just a more sophisticated way of not sending the message. A costume the cowardice wears so it can call itself intelligence. And then I see that. And I feel the special bitter superiority of a man who has caught even his own excuses in the act. And by now 4 minutes have passed, and the moment is dead and I have not sent the message. And I sit back in my clean apartment feeling, God help me, proud. As though not sending were an achievement. As though I had seen so deeply into the thing that I had earned the right not to do it. That's the trick. That's the whole trick, and I'm the only one it's ever fooled, and it has fooled me completely for 41 years. I have built an entire identity, a career, of a kind, a following, a reputation for sharpness, on the fact that seeing through things feels almost exactly like being above them. And it isn't. Being above things would mean I didn't want them. I want them so badly I can taste it. I want to be loved, and I want to be admired, and I want to walk into a room and have people be glad, actually glad, that I came. And I want one person, to know the actual me, the one under the account, and not run. I want all of it, all the ordinary, embarrassing, sincere things, as much as any of the people whose sincerity I make my living mocking, more probably, because I've had to hold it in so long it's under enormous pressure. And I can't reach for any of it, because reaching would mean being, for 1 second, one of them, earnest, exposed, unironic, a person who wants and shows it, and I would rather die. I would genuinely rather sit here, seeing everything, wanting everything, doing nothing for the rest of my life, than be caught for 1 instant being sincere. You think I'm exaggerating for effect. I'm not. Or I am a little the way I did with the first line because I can't help performing even my confession, but the thing under the performance is exactly true. I would rather be seen as cruel than as needy. I would rather be seen as cold than as trying. Cruelty is safe because if you mock a thing you can't be caught wanting it. That's the entire secret of everyone who talks the way I talk. We are not cold. We are the opposite of cold. We are people who ran from a fire so long ago that we've forgotten it was a fire. And now we tell everyone we prefer the cold. And we've said it so many times that we've almost convinced ourselves. I want to tell you about the account for one more moment and then I'll stop, because I can feel you getting tired of it. And the fact that I can feel that is, never mind. I said I'd stop the mirrors. The account is the only place I exist without the apparatus switching on. That's why I can't leave it. On the account, I don't have to reach for anything, because mockery isn't reaching. Mockery is a thing you do to something that already exists. So there's no gap, no wanting, no exposure. Someone posts their joy and I don't have to risk my own joy. I just have to comment on theirs from above safely, and the thousands of little hearts come in. And for about 90 seconds I feel the thing I imagine an ordinary person feels all the time. The warm feeling of being wanted. Of having said the thing everyone was thinking, of being seen, except that I'm not seen. That's the trick within the trick. They don't see me. They see the account. They see the voice. They've never once seen the man in the clean apartment. And the difference between being seen and having your voice liked is the difference between being loved and hearing applause through a wall. And I know that difference intimately. I've studied it for 11 years, and I go back every single day. They think I'm free. That's the funny part. People on there think I'm the free one, the one who says what everyone's afraid to say, the one who isn't fooled, the one who's above the game. They send me messages. You're the only honest one. You're the only one who sees it. And I read them in my clean apartment at 11 at night. The only honest one. The only one who sees it. And I have never in my adult life said one true, sincere thing to a single human being face to face. Because the moment I open my mouth to do it, the apparatus switches on, and I hear how it will sound, and I stop. I'm not writing this to be forgiven. I want to be very clear about that, because it would be so easy, so ordinary to write a thing like this and have it be a plea, a redemption arc, a man coming clean so you'll love him for his honesty. And I can see that version of this document. I can see it perfectly. And I refuse it. I'd rather you not love me at all than love me for performing my own unlovability, which would just be the account again, the same trick in a longer form. I'm writing this because I have to put it somewhere, and there's no one to say it to, and there has never been anyone to say it to, and there was almost someone once, which is the part I've been circling this whole time without touching, the way I circle everything. Her name was Lena. I'll tell you about Lena, but not yet. First, I have to tell you about the dinner, because you can't understand what I did to Lena until you understand the dinner, and you can't understand the dinner until you understand that I was, that night, exactly the man I've just described, and that everything that happened because a man like me was put, for one evening, in a room where he was expected to simply, ordinarily, be liked. Chapter 2: The Dinner. They found me for the reunion the way everyone gets found now. Someone made a group, added everyone they could remember, and the group sat there for weeks filling up with the terrible, cheerful logistics of people who were 16 together 25 years ago and have nothing in common but that. I should not have gone. I want to establish that I knew completely that I should not go and that I went anyway, and that the going anyway is the most honest thing I'll tell you in this whole account, because it exposes the lie at the center of me. If I truly held these people in the contempt I performed, I would not have needed to see them. Contempt doesn't RSVP. Contempt stays home. The fact that I went, the fact that I read every message in that group for 3 weeks, that I saw them making plans without particularly waiting for my reply, that I felt, watching the plans form, a childish hot need to be there, to be in the room, to be counted, that fact tells you everything. I didn't despise them. I ached to be wanted by them, by the exact people I'd spent 25 years being too good for, and I could not admit the ache even to myself. And so I told myself I was going ironically, going as an observer, going to collect material, going to sit at the edge and see through them one more time. I even, God forgive me, thought about which observations I'd post afterward. I had the account open in my head before I'd left my apartment. There were 4 of them plus me. Serge, who had done well, genuinely well, a company, a family, the easy weight of a man life has said yes to, and who organized the dinner and paid for most of it and did both without seeming to notice he was doing them, which is the specific grace of the successful that I have never once been able to forgive. And 3 others, softer, ordinary, a little heavier, a little grayer, men who had become fathers and account managers, and one of them a high school teacher, men who had, without any drama, simply lived, while I was in my clean apartment being the only honest one. I'll tell you what happened at that dinner in order, and I'll tell you the truth, which is harder than telling you the version I posted. What happened is that they were nice to me. That's it, that's the horror of the evening. I had armored myself for contempt, for exclusion, for being the odd one, the failure, the one who never grew up, and I had my responses ready, cold and clean, and instead Serge stood up when I came in and said, hey, he came, good, sit here, and put me next to him, and they were nice to me, and I did not have a single defense prepared for kindness, because kindness was the one weapon I'd never learned to survive. And so I did the thing. You already know I did the thing. Watch me do it. They asked what I was up to, and instead of saying the true thing, I write an account online. Some people think it's sharp, mostly I'm alone, instead of that plain survivable sentence. I heard the apparatus switch on. I saw how I post jokes online would sound in this room of men with companies and children. I saw myself becoming small in their eyes, and I could not bear it. And so I got there first, the way I always get there first. I made myself the one who was above the room. I made a joke about Serge's success, a good joke, a sharp one, the kind that gets hearts. I found the thread in his easy weight and I pulled it. I said something about how nice it must be to have the kind of confidence that comes from never having had an interesting thought. And it landed. It got the laugh. And Serge laughed too, generously, because he could afford to. And in the half-second of the laugh I felt the old warmth, the account warmth, the applause through the wall, and then it passed, the way it always passes. In 90 seconds, and left me exactly where I always am, outside, having bought one moment of being seen at the cost of being known, having made sure, once again, that no one in that room would ever reach toward the man instead of the voice, because I'd shown them the voice was armed. I did it 4 or 5 more times over the dinner, each time smaller returns. Each time they laughed a little less and glanced at each other a little more, not with contempt. That's what I'd been armored for, contempt I could have used, but with something far worse, something I had no defense for at all. Concern. They were starting to feel sorry for me. I could see it forming on their ordinary lived-in faces. The recognition that the sharp one, the funny one, was not okay, that all this pulling of threads was the sound of a man with nothing else, and their niceness, which I could not survive, was curdling into pity, which I could survive even less. And Serge, this is the part I can't post, the part I've told no one. Serge, at the end when the others were getting their coats, put his hand on my shoulder. This man I'd spent the whole night dismantling, and he said quietly, just to me, not unkindly, not even hurt, "You know you can just be here, right? You don't have to do the bit. Nobody's grading you. We're just glad you came. We're just glad you came." The exact thing I have wanted to hear from another human being for 41 years. Said to me plainly, in a real voice, by a real person, with his hand on my shoulder. And I looked at him and I felt the whole ache rise up, the entire held-in pressure of a life. And for one instant the apparatus was silent, and I could have simply said thank you. I could have said I know, I'm sorry. It's the only way I know how to be in a room. One true sentence, the water flowing into the glass, the ordinary healthy thing. And instead, because his kindness had gotten too close, because being seen like that was more terrifying than any contempt, the apparatus roared back on at full volume, and I heard myself say, cool as anything, "Careful, Serge, you're doing sincerity, people can see you." And I smiled my clean smile, and he took his hand off my shoulder, and something closed in his face, not anger, just a small final closing, the door of a man who has offered a rope for the last time, and he said, "Yeah, okay. Take care of yourself." And he meant it, and he left, and they all left. And I stood on the sidewalk outside the restaurant in the cold, the only honest one, the only one who saw it, having seen my way straight out of the one moment of connection I'd wanted my whole life. I went home and I posted about the dinner. It did very well. Spent an evening with the guys who peaked in high school, I wrote, and I found every thread and pulled everyone. Serge's easy weight, the teacher's earnestness, all of it, cold and clean and cruel, and the hearts came in by the 100. You're the only honest one. You're the only one who sees it. And I read them at 11 at night in my clean apartment, and I felt the applause come through the wall, 90 seconds of it. And then it passed, the way it always passes, and left me sitting exactly where I have always sat, seeing everything, wanting everything, alone. And that was the night, that exact night, walking home from having destroyed my own last chance at the dinner, raw and humiliated and unbearable to myself. That was the night I met Lena. Chapter 3. Lena. I met her because my phone was dying and I went into a diner to sit down, and she was the one working the counter at 11 at night. And I want to be honest about the first thing I did, which was the only thing I know how to do. I looked at her and I read her. That's what I do to everyone in the first 4 seconds. I read her. Late 20s, maybe 30. Tired in the specific way of people who work when other people sleep. A name tag that said Lena, and under it, in smaller letters that the management clearly required, a little printed line, "Ask me about our loyalty program." And I saw that line and the apparatus switched on, and I had it instantly, the whole thread. Here is a person whose employer has decided her forced cheerfulness is a company asset. Here is the small daily humiliation of being made to perform enthusiasm for a rewards card. Here is content. Here is a post. The quiet violence of the exclamation point they make you wear. And I had it composed before she'd even reached my table, and I felt the little pre-warmth of a good observation coming. And then she got to my table and she said, "You look like someone just told you the truth about yourself," and set down a coffee I hadn't ordered. I hadn't ordered it, she just brought it. And she said the thing about the truth not as a bit, not as a line, not reaching for anything. She said it the way you'd note that it was raining because it was simply, flatly accurate. I had just been told the truth about myself, 2 hours earlier on a sidewalk, by a man taking his hand off my shoulder. And this stranger had looked at me for 1 second and seen it, the way I see everyone, except that when I see people I use it to get above them, and when she saw me, she used it to bring me a coffee. I did not know what to do. I want you to understand how completely I did not know what to do. My entire operating system is built for a world where seeing into people is a weapon, mine, held by me, pointed outward. I had never once been on the other end of it. I had never been read by someone who then did something kind with what they read. The apparatus, which had a response prepared for contempt and a response prepared for admiration and a response prepared for pity, had nothing prepared for this. And for a moment, a long moment, longer than I've been silent in years, it simply stopped. And I sat there and I drank the coffee I hadn't ordered, and she went back to the counter. And I felt something I had no name for, which I now know was the specific terror of being, for once, the one who is seen. I went back the next night. I told myself it was for the coffee. I'm not going to romanticize this. I've read enough of the kind of story where the broken man is saved by the wise waitress to know exactly how this reads, and I refuse it. I refuse the shape of it, because the shape is a lie and the truth is worse, and I promised you the truth. Lena did not save me. Lena was not a wise oracle sent to heal me. Lena was a tired woman who worked nights and had herself a whole life I knew nothing about and kept assuming I already understood. Because that's the other thing the apparatus does. It convinces you you've already read someone, fully in 4 seconds, so you never have to do the slow, terrifying work of actually finding out. What she was ordinary and kind and unguarded in a way I had spent my whole life being unable to be. Over a few weeks, I kept coming back, always at 11, always telling myself it was the coffee. She talked to me. Just talked. About her sister she was helping with money, about a class she was trying to take, about a plan she had, a real plan, small and unglamorous, to do a thing with her life that would take years and might not work. And she said all of it plainly, sincerely, without irony, without protecting herself, the way the healthy ones do, the way I cannot, laying her actual hopes out on the counter in front of a stranger like they weren't the most dangerous things a person owns. And I sat there and I did the thing. Quietly at first, I couldn't help it. She'd tell me the plan and I'd hear the apparatus switch on and I'd see all the ways it wouldn't work, all the statistics, all the naivete in it, and here's the poison. I'd tell myself I was helping by seeing them. I'd offer her, gently, a little realism, a little sharpness. Have you considered, I'd say, what usually happens to people who try that? And I told myself this was a gift, that my seeing through was a kind of care, that the sincere, hopeful ones need someone to show them the cold, true shape of the world before it breaks them. And I even half believed it. That's the sickness. I've always half believed that my cruelty is a form of honesty, and my honesty is a form of love. She let it roll off her mostly. She'd say, maybe. But I'd rather try it and be wrong than not try it and be right. And she'd say it without any heat. And each time she said something like that, it landed in me like a stone down a well. Because it was the exact thing I could not do, the water flowing into the glass, the wanting becoming the doing with no apparatus in between. And I both loved her for it and could not forgive her for it. Because her ease was a mirror and the man in the mirror was me, seeing everything, doing nothing, 41, alone. And then one night she did the thing that ended it. She looked at me across the counter, the diner empty, the hour dead, the coffee I hadn't ordered going cold between us, and she said, plainly, without reaching, the most dangerous sentence anyone had said to me since Surge. Why do you do that? The seeing through, you do it to everything. You did it to my class and my sister and the loyalty card the first night I watched you do it. You had a whole little joke about it in your face before I even got to the table. She wasn't angry. That was the unbearable part. She was curious and kind and completely unafraid. It must be exhausting, never getting to just like something, never getting to just want something out loud. She tilted her head. What do you actually want? Not the joke about it, the thing. What do you actually want? The thing. And here it is. Here is the center of the whole account, the thing I've been circling since the first line. Because in that moment, in that empty diner, a person was reaching, not for the voice, not for the account. She'd never heard of the account. She didn't know I was the only honest one, the only one who saw it. She was reaching for the man. For me. She was asking the actual me, the one in the clean apartment, the one under everything. What do you want? And she was ready to hear it, ready to just receive it, no grading, nobody keeping score. The single thing I have wanted every day of my life was sitting across a counter offering itself to me for free. And I destroyed it. Watch me destroy it. Chapter 4. What I did. The apparatus switched on so hard and so fast that I think, looking back, it was fear in its purest form. The animal fear of a creature who has lived its whole life in a shell being asked, gently, to come out. Because to answer her, to say I want to be known, I want one person to see the actual me and not run, I want you. I've been coming here for weeks and it was never about the coffee. To say any of that would have been to stand, for the first time in 41 years, completely without armor in front of another human being, sincere, exposed, wanting out loud. One of them and I would rather have died. I have told you this from the beginning. I would rather die than be caught being sincere. And when the moment finally came, the real moment, the one I'd wanted my whole life, I proved it. I chose death. Not my body's death. The other kind. The kind you do to a thing between two people. I looked at her, this kind, tired, unguarded woman who had just handed me her open hand, and I found the thread. Of course I found the thread. That's my one talent. I can find the thread in anything, even in the person trying to save me, especially in the person trying to save me. Because they're the most exposed, they've put down their guard. The sincere are always the easiest to destroy. And I pulled it. I said cool, clean, from above the account voice, the only honest one voice, I said. What do I want, God? You know what this is, right? This little late-night therapy thing you do with the sad regulars. It's not kindness, it's a role. You need to be the wise one who sees the broken men, because it's cheaper than fixing your own life, so you play counselor to strangers over a counter at a job that makes you wear an exclamation point. You don't actually want to know what I want. You want to be the kind of person who asks. There's a difference. I'd have thought someone as authentic as you would know it. I watched it land. I have spent my whole life watching things land, measuring the exact damage of a well-thrown line. It's what I'm best at in the world, and I have never, before or since, watched anything land the way that landed. It went into her like a blade going into someone who wasn't braced for it, because she wasn't braced. That was the whole point. She was the only person in years who'd stood in front of me unbraced, and I used the opening she'd made by trusting me to put the knife exactly where trust had left her soft. Her face. I'll see her face for the rest of my life. First the flinch. Then the confusion, the visible work of a kind person trying to understand why someone would do that. And then this is the one I can't outrun. Then the thing I'd wanted from Serge and gotten instead, the small final closing. The door of a person who has offered a rope for the last time. She straightened up. She picked up the cold coffee, and she said very quietly with a dignity that made it 1,000 times worse, "Okay, I'm sorry I asked." And she went back to the counter, and she did not look at me again, and I paid and I left, and I stood on the sidewalk in the cold, the same cold as the night with Serge, the exact same cold, because for a man like me every night is the same night, the only honest one, the only one who saw it, having seen my way, one more time, straight out of the only thing I'd ever wanted. Here is the part that damns me completely, and I'm going to write it. Because if I leave it out, this whole account becomes the thing I swore it wouldn't be, a plea, a confession for love, a man performing his own guilt so beautifully that you forgive him. I don't want forgiveness. I want you to see the actual mechanism one last time, working perfectly to the very end. Walking home, gutted, having destroyed her and myself, do you know what I did? I started writing the post. I couldn't help it. The apparatus doesn't stop for grief. Grief is just more material. By the time I reached my apartment, I had it composed. The girl at the diner who thinks asking sad men what they want is a personality. I had the thread pulled, the whole cruel clean thing, and I sat down at 11 at night in my clean apartment, and I opened the account, and I put my thumbs on the screen to post it, to convert the worst thing I'd ever done into content, into hearts, into 90 seconds of applause through the wall, to make even this into the account being right about the world. And I stopped. I want to tell you I stopped because I'd changed. I hadn't changed. Let me be exact, because this is the last true thing and it has to be exact. I didn't stop because I'd become good. I stopped because for the first time in 11 years, the applause wasn't worth enough. I finally understood, sitting there with my thumbs on the screen, what the account had actually been: not insight, not honesty, not being above it all. It had been a wall I built to stand behind so no one could reach me. And it had worked perfectly. My God, it had worked so well that when a person finally reached over the wall with her bare hand, my only instinct, my trained reflex, the single thing I knew how to do was to cut it. And I would keep cutting, every hand forever. The account would applaud me for it every time, and I would die behind the wall, seeing everything, wanting everything, the only honest one, the only one who saw it, and I would have posted it all, and none of it, not one heart of it, would have been a person glad I came. I didn't post it, that's all. That's the entire redemption available to a man like me, and it isn't one. I didn't post one cruel thing one time and it changes nothing. Lena is still gone. Serge is still gone. The wall is still there. I'm still here. I'm still exactly the man I described in the first line. I just, for once, didn't pull the thread. I deleted the draft. I put the phone face down. And I sat in my clean apartment in the quiet with no applause coming through any wall, alone with the actual me, the one under everything, the one I've spent my whole life making sure no one would ever have to meet. And I let him sit there, unposted, unperformed, unarmored for the first time, wanting everything, having nothing, seeing at last the one thing I'd never let myself see. That the disease was never that I saw through the world. The disease was that I never once let the world see through to me. Chapter 5 notes. That was 3 years ago. I'm still here. I want to tell you that up front because you've been reading the kind of account that usually ends with a change. The man learns. The man reaches out. The man finds Lena and apologizes, and she forgives him and they build something. Or she doesn't forgive him, but he's grown, he's better. He goes on to love someone else with his newly opened heart. And I know you want that. I can feel you wanting it. And I want you to feel me refusing it. Because the refusal is the last true thing I have to give you. And it's the only thing in this whole document I'm sure of. I did not find Lena. I thought about it. I composed the message perhaps 200 times over 3 years. I can compose anything. You know that about me by now. Composing is not my problem, and I never sent one. And I want to be precise about why, because the why is the whole disease in miniature, the entire thing in a single specimen. I didn't send it because the moment I imagined sending it, the apparatus switched on and I saw how it would look. A man who did a cruel thing 3 years ago crawling back with an apology, and I saw that even the apology would be a performance, a way of getting to feel like the kind of man who apologizes, a last cruel little grab at being seen dressed up as remorse, and I saw all of that clearly in 4 seconds and I stopped. Do you understand what happened there? Do you see it? The exact same mechanism that stopped me from sending a kind message my whole life now stops me from sending an apology. The disease doesn't have a good version and a bad version. It's one machine. It runs on everything. It ate my cruelty and now it eats my remorse, and it will eat this account too, the second I finish it. I can already feel it composing the thought, what a beautifully honest thing you've written. And there it is. You see, there it is. It never stops. It will never stop. I could write 10,000 pages and the last line of the 10,000th page would still be the apparatus admiring itself for having written it. So no apology. Not because I don't owe one. I owe the largest apology of my life to a tired, kind woman who brought me a coffee. I didn't order and reached over the counter with her bare hand, but because I have finally understood that I am not able to give one cleanly, that everything I touch turns into performance, that this is not a phase or a wound or a thing therapy fixes in the third act. This is what I am. This is the shape of me all the way down. And the most honest thing a man like me can do is not to pretend otherwise for the sake of your ending. I still have the account. I want to be honest about that too, because it's the detail that would ruin the redemption version, and so it's the detail that matters most. I still have it. I still post. I did not burn it down and walk into the sunrise a whole man. Some nights I still pull the thread and the hearts still come, and the applause still comes through the wall, 90 seconds of it, and it still passes, and I still sit here after in the same quiet. I've changed one thing, only one, and it's so small that I'm almost ashamed to offer it as the sum total of what a human being learned from destroying the two people who tried to reach him. Here it is, the one thing. I stopped sometimes, not always sometimes, pulling the thread on the sincere ones. That's it. When I see someone now doing the thing Lena did, the thing Serge did, the thing the healthy ones do, laying an actual hope out where it can be hurt, wanting something out loud, being unironic and exposed and reachable, I still find the thread. I can't not find it. The finding is automatic, it's my eyes, it's how I see. But sometimes now, more often than before, I find the thread and I look at it, and I think of a face straightening up over a cold coffee. Okay, I'm sorry I asked. And I put the phone down and I leave the sincere one alone. I let them have their hope unpulled. I let them go on being reachable, which is the thing I destroyed in myself so long ago that I can't remember doing it, the thing I will never get back, the thing I can now only on my best nights decline to destroy in others. It is not redemption. I keep saying that, and I'll say it once more because you keep trying to make it into redemption, and I need you to stop. A man who can only manage not always making it worse has not been redeemed, but it is the honest ceiling of a man like me, and I would rather show you my real ceiling than sell you someone else's sky. I've thought a great deal these 3 years about why I wrote this at all, why a man whose entire life is the avoidance of being seen would sit down and write the one true account of himself. And I think the answer is the cruelest joke the apparatus ever played on me. And I think you've probably already guessed it, because you've been reading me carefully. And if you've read me carefully, you know me better now than anyone I've met in the flesh, and that's the answer. That's why I wrote it. Because I could not do it with a face. I could not do it across a counter or on a sidewalk with a hand on my shoulder. The one and only way a man like me can ever be known, actually known, all the way down, no armor, the man under the account, is like this. On a page, to a stranger, in the dark, at a distance safe enough that when you finally see me, I don't have to watch you see me. I've built the wall so high that the only way I can show you what's behind it is to slide a written confession under the one door I'll never open. So here it is. You've read it. You know me now, the real me, the one in the clean apartment, the one who wanted everything and reached for nothing, the one who cut every hand that came over the wall, the only honest one, the only one who saw it alone. You've seen through to me at last, which is the thing I spent 44 years making sure no living person could do. And do you know what I notice writing that? Do you know what the apparatus is doing right now in the last lines? It's warm. There's a warmth. The specific warmth of being seen, the applause through the wall, except that this time there's no wall, or the wall is made of the page itself, and you're on the other side of it reading. And for the length of this sentence I am at last known, and it feels exactly like the thing I wanted my whole life. And it's not real. You're not glad I came. You don't even know if I'm real. I might be nobody. I might be a voice with no man behind it, which, when I think about it, is what I've been all along. That's the joke. That's the whole joke, and it's on me, and I saw it coming. I see everything coming. I saw it coming and I wrote it anyway. Because a false warmth through a wall of paper is the only warmth a man like me will ever let himself have. And I would rather have that than nothing. And having that instead of the real thing, when the real thing was sitting across a counter offering itself to me for free. That is the entire disease, one last time working perfectly to the final line. I am a sick man, I am a spiteful man, I am an unpleasant man. I told you that at the beginning. I just didn't tell you I was right. The end.